Well, is it Friday? Yes, it's Friday. I am confused again because I took the red-eye flight last night. It's not 6 o'clock, so we're being consistent inconsistently, we're being consistent.
It's we're just gonna call this our
Yeah,
summertime schedule. It seems like
we're,
in the
we're
fall, spring, and winter we do pretty good.
we're adapting. We're adapting. That's all we're doing.
Exactly.
And
So you're in New York,
yeah,
and I'm in my office,
yeah.
which is kind of odd. But yeah, this is kind of fun. And I feel bad that we got you so tired because you took the red eye, and I know you've had very little sleep. But hopefully, it'll be a fun topic tonight, and we can.
Yeah, and it's lack of sleep and just getting off that regular eating pattern as well. I realized this afternoon, I was like, oh, I didn't have breakfast, nor did I have lunch.
Oh man.
You just sort of get into the flow of getting from one place to another, and I got here, wanted to get my bike set up, and just try to get the lay of the land. I'm from New York now. I'm in Manhattan right now. I lived outside of the city limits at one point. Everybody used to come into Manhattan quite a bit, so it's very familiar to me. But yet, I haven't been here in probably 15 years. So it's sort of neat to come back and just get the lay of the land again.
Well, what blew me away when you said you were riding your bike in Times Square, and I'm
Yeah,
like, this might be the only time trial bike that's riding around Times Square today. I don't know.
I got a lot of neat comments about my bike from a variety of people. It was and some of them said, "Oh, that's an electric bike," and I'm like, "No, I still have to pedal it. This is still a manual
Not
bike."
electric at all.
But it is fun, and it is fun to go to someplace like Times Square. Of course, Times Square is, you go there and you're like, okay, this is Times Square. Okay, now where do we go?
Yeah.
It's not like a site like the Grand Canyon that you go there and you just and all of it. It's just a neat hustle and bustle. So I sat there. I had a pretzel from the street vendor and just sort of walked people and then jumped back on the bike. And biking in New York, that I used to love doing that. The one rule you have to remember is there's no rules.
But that helps, right? Is that you have that mindset.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that no rules applies to everybody. And so it's not just you it's not encouraging you to break rules, but you got to watch for people. And there's all different types of vehicles now on the road as opposed to when I was here before. I mean, now you got electric scooters, you got the electric unicycles, electric bikes. There's a wide variety of vehicles, and there's no rules, so you've got to be looking all the time to
Yep.
avoid everyone, pedestrians, cyclists, everything.
So, John, tell us about the race you're going to do this weekend.
Well, I think this is going to lead into our topic tonight. And our topic tonight is adapting to different race formats. And so I got here, and there is a bit of a heat wave, which seems to be a trend with races I signed up for. Is that it always seems to bring on the hottest weather. But now this race had been canceled 2 years ago because of hot weather. So there is a proclivity for hot weather this time of year. And so what the race director did sent a message out yesterday, and they shortened the bike and the run segments of an Olympic distance race to, in essence, a sprint distance race. They're keeping the swim the same because the logistics of the swim are pretty much set. You don't have a lot of flexibility in that. So the swim is still a bit tide aided. It's just short of a mile. And then it'll be a 20K bike and a 2.5 mile run of all things.
2.5. Okay, so 2.5 miles?
2.5.
Okay, so not even a sprint distance.
No, not
Or-
even not even a 5K. And again, the reason they did that, I'm quite certain, is just because the logistics of the course that they did have, where they could save some distance, it made sense to cut it off at 2.5 instead of even try to fit in a 5K. Because it's not like, you're going through New York, in Manhattan, upper West Side, and then into Central Park. you know, it's not like you can say, oh, well, let's now go this way instead of that way, and it's not going to happen. So, you know,
Yeah.
they're doing the best they can to keep everyone safe.
So what is the temperature supposed to be?
It will get up into the mid 90s, and humidity could be probably well over 50%.
Yeah.
And I didn't check the weather format before we started, but it you know, can get up to 80% humidity here in a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
it'll be hot and humid.
Okay. Well, good luck
Yeah,
at the race. I know you're going to have a good time, especially that downriver swim. It's going to be fun.
yeah, yeah. Tide. It's actually upstream, but there
Oh,
will be a tide that will be aiding.
oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, so it's a funny way you swim north. But you know what I think that, you know, it's just an example of where you get to a race and something changes and you have to adapt and, you know, really, okay, so it stinks. I flew all the way and doing Olympic distance, although I only was doing this out of convenience because I was coming this way anyhow. So it just sort of worked out, but it would be pretty silly to fly across country just to do a sprint race. I don't know. It's maybe not silly, but it it's it is what it is, and I'll toe the start line, and I'll
Yeah.
just adjust how I'm doing it, and still you know, get a good race experience.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so one of the things we're going to talk about tonight was going to be about different formats and different things. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about to start out was talking about relays in
Yeah,
triathlon and how doing relays in triathlon is good for many reasons. But for me, one of the big reasons is it can open up people to the sport. And some people, they might not feel comfortable doing swim, bike, and run, or they're a runner and you want to get them involved in the sport. So maybe you set up a relay team where you do the swim, you do the bike, and they do the run, and then they see the atmosphere. And I've heard many stories of people getting into triathlon through the relay format. And I really, I know a lot of the triathlons have relays, and I think it's a great way to bring people into the sport. I don't know what your experience is with relays though.
yeah. No, I really like that format, and like you said, it can be a real gateway for people to get in the sport because they may be comfortable in one sport. They may have an interest in triathlon, but it may seem too intimidating to do all three. And so go do a relay and then decide if you want to go on, or just stay competitive with relays because the relays can be very competitive.
Oh yeah, I love it when you see some of these really competitive ones where it's like they have the best runner in town, the
Yeah,
best cyclist in town, and then the best swimmer. I think that's happened at St. George a few times where they've got
yeah,
some real ringers,
yeah,
uh, and people throwing down a half marathon in 1:10
yeah,
or be quicker in the relay. And it's like, man, these people are posting, a 3:30 for
yeah,
a half Ironman as a relay. And it's like, man, that's super cool, right? It's like
yeah,
bringing together three people. And then on the other hand, it could be three people that, just enjoy. And it's not about, going super fast. It's about being a team and doing something together. I can remember several years ago, my wife did the relay at St. George, and we just got a couple people from our swim group, and one lady did the bike, my wife did the swim, and one lady did the bike, another lady did the run, and a couple of them are like best friends still and I
yeah,
think it was bonding
yeah,
that you have when you're part of a
yeah.
team, and it's something in triathlon we oftentimes don't have.
Mhm.
That team bonding. Yeah, we have clubs and we have, but I think when you're trying to get to the same goal,
Mhm.
there's something to that.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. There is a little bit more cohesiveness when the three people or two people, however, whatever the format is, are pairing up to do the event. And it's fun. I've known a lot of people that have done that. As we talked before we started, this is how I've gotten some college students involved in the sport, is to get them to do a relay. And from there, I've actually had two or three of the students go on and complete triathlons on their own. And so it's sort of neat to see them, get an entry into the sport through the relay. I'm really enjoying that because at the end, you're all taking pictures with each other. You're all, looking at your times together, and it's sort of a neat team building type of experience.
Yeah. I've done a relay before as well that it was the week after a 70.3 where I really couldn't run. I just or didn't want to run. So then I did the swim and the bike, and then I found a friend that was a runner, and we did it together. And same thing is, it was in my best interest to not run, and we had a great time. It was once again going towards a common goal, and he'd never done a triathlon before. He was a runner, and he subsequently didn't do a triathlon, but it was still a bonding experience. The only complaint that I have with the relay is sometimes they can be really expensive.
They can be what?
Really expensive.
Oh yeah, right.
They almost charge the full price for each person.
Yeah.
And that's been a barrier for even my wife, that she really likes to swim. And it'll be, let's say the relay is $500 to do like a 70.3, and she swims for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And she pays a third of $500 for a 30-minute swim. That becomes a real barrier. And I get it, like there's logistics associated with this. They got to give 3 t-shirts instead of one. But it does make it difficult. And so, if I had one complaint about the relay, it's that they can be a cost prohibitive.
No, for sure. And I have seen different teams talk about how they split up the cost of each leg, and sometimes like you said, it's just a third each way, and sometimes they do break it down proportional to how much time they're really putting in on the event. And that is something that if folks are looking at doing a relay, that's something to talk about right up front, so you're all on the same page with how to do it.
Yeah. The other one that you see a lot of, and I see this on, like on Facebook pages and stuff like that, is you can jump on a relay sometimes. Like if you really pay attention on the Facebook pages, oh hey, we need a swimmer, we need a biker, and I've seen people, they'll even like just they've already paid for their relay, and they need a swimmer, and they won't even charge the person. It's just like, oh, you want to join our team? Great. Even my wife's done that before, where I'm going to the race anyways, and I just kind of keep a look on the Facebook page for the race, and sometimes it'll come up, hey, we need a swimmer for our relay, and throw my wife in there, and she's super happy. Doesn't cost her anything usually, or maybe just a little bit. So there are other ways to gain entry.
Well, I love this because I think the idea that we've been talking, our next newsletter issue is on this mid-season, blah or blues that you can get when you're in, something happens during the season, and you hit this time of the year and you're like, oh, what do I do? How do I keep that engagement in the sport? And sometimes doing something entirely different than participating in a relay may actually just give you a little bit more perspective of the sport, and may energize you even as opposed to doing the event. So it's something that people should look at and consider.
Yeah, and encourage others too. I really think that's important for the long game in our sport, and grassroots efforts, like we said before. I think it's critical.
So you've done a relay, and your wife has done relays. I don't think I've ever done a relay, not for a triathlon. I've done some other running relays, but not this. So you want to talk about what type of rules there are that are unique to a relay and triathlon?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I'll just kind of lay it down normally how it goes. So obviously the swim start is the same, right? Sometimes you'll start with the group, sometimes you'll have a relay specific start depending on, but most times you just start with the group. Then usually the swimmer, the downside is the swimmer often has to run to T1. And if somebody like is injured or something and they literally can't run, and that's the reason they're doing this, that can be a problem. And this has been an issue with my wife. We've been doing a relay once. It was almost a mile run. She can't run, and so she just had to walk fast. And then she felt like, oh man, I just crushed it swimming, and now I'm like, everyone's passing me. But usually you got to run to the bike rack, and usually the rule is there's a little area that's specific for relays, and in that area, the person that's going to bike will be there, and you just take your timing chip off, put it on the biker on their ankle, and then they're gone and they're off on their own thing. And it's very typical that, especially, well, depending on even if it's a point by point, it's typical that the runner will basically be the same thing. They'll have to be beside the bike rack, and so when the bike comes in, they'll be beside the bike rack, take the timing chip off, put the timing chip on them, and then they run. And then at the finish, most of the time, just the runner runs across the finish line. I've seen some that they'll actually have a little waiting area, and then all three can run across together.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which I think I think when they do that, I think it's a really special thing.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of crossing a finish line.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and especially if you can do it together, I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, I've seen that before at some places, and then I've seen where it's just the runner that goes across. Okay. And then normally in the results, there's like the relay division, and it's kind of fun too, because you get to put like a team name together, so you can come up with like a fun team name. One time Marie did it, a relay, and everyone liked the same kind of wine. So there was like Team Pinot was there, whatever the case may be. I think that one's super fun. And then in the results, it just says Team Pinot. So like if you're not so sure, oh man, I don't want to embarrass myself because I'm not that good, or no one even sees your name. It's just like a team. And then you once again, normally what happens when the person finishes, they give you like a finisher medal, and then you normally got to say, hey, I'm in a relay, I need to get 3 medals. And sometimes like they're not ready for the logistics of that. Yeah. Sometimes they are. Some of them are great and actually will have specific medals that say relay on the medal. Sometimes they don't. But yeah, I think my wife has probably done 5 or 6. I've done 2.
Okay.
But like I said, I don't know. I think it's kind of fun, especially I don't know, especially for my wife when I'm going to a race anyways, and she loves to swim.
Yeah, right.
She feels part of the event, and it's not like she's just waiting around for me, or it's like, I don't know. We always, I try and look, if I go to a race down in California or whatever, to make, if they have a relay, we try and set that up.
Oh, I love that, because then it's telling stories and talking about different parts of whatever leg the person did, and they're part of the conversation again. And so because I always hate it when we've got a group that just did a race, and there may have been 1 or 2 people who hadn't done it, and you want to engage everyone in that conversation. So
yeah, everyone wants to talk about the time they got kicked in the face when they're swimming, right?
Right. Yeah, that's always fun.
So that's a obviously a pretty common format. And then we had an event last weekend with a little bit of an unusual format as well, and that's the Aqua Bike. And I think Aqua Bikes are great as well. I know a few years ago I had a pretty good injury a few years ago, and I ended up I was going to the long course world championship in Denmark, and I couldn't run, and I definitely couldn't run the 30K that they wanted me to run in that race. And so about 3 weeks before, I reached out to the organizers and reached out to Team Canada, who I was racing for. I'm like, hey, listen, like I'm injured. Is there a way that we can switch me to an Aqua Bike? And it took a few emails back and forth, and next thing you know, I'm doing a long course world championship Aqua Bike. And it was so good because my trip was already paid for. I was going with other people, right? And the only other thing I could have done was do the race and then literally walked 30K. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go walk 30K. It doesn't sound fun to me. And honestly, I look back at that race, and it was it was such a fun race. Yeah. It was a 3K swim, I think, and then a 75-mile bike. Oh. And to go hard on your limit, because remember, there's no run afterwards, right? So you don't have to dial it back. Yeah. To go hard for 75K, or 75 miles, it was 75 miles, 120K. Yeah. On the bike was super fun. And, and then when I finished, there was actually a guy that we kind of rode close to, and it was a there that was an interesting one because the finish line is when you cross like into T2, but then
Mhm.
they allowed us to actually go to the actual finish line and run under the arch
Oh,
and go,
cool.
which was
Yeah,
super.
that's nice.
And then once again, I've done a few other aqua bikes. I did 3 or 4 that year, and it was super fun. I got to be all American for aqua bike.
That's
I actually
awesome.
have a USAP certificate that says that.
Yeah,
And it was literally I just couldn't get over the hump of a running injury that year,
yeah.
and I just kind of changed my focus. And I still stayed engaged. I still
Hmm.
I don't know. I had a good time with it. Once again, my wife's done several aqua bikes as well.
Hmm.
And the only downside to it sometimes is there's not very many people,
Yeah,
right? There might be a race and there's only like 5 people doing the aqua bike or
right,
whatever.
right,
But
right.
once again, if it's about you and
Mhm.
what you can do, it doesn't really matter.
But you're also racing with everyone else that's racing that day.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's only five of you. Yes, there's five in that division, but it's still there's other events going on at the same time. And I've seen Aquabike. I mean, it's amazing how that's really taken off. And
Yeah.
because it's really easier in terms of the run being such a high risk for overuse injuries. That's where people end up getting hurt to begin with as a training for an event. So having an aqua bike option is just great.
Yeah. I'll tell you another aqua bike story. So for 3 years in a row, I raced at the U.S. Long Course Nationals, and the aqua bike started at the same time.
Hmm.
And you can't get caught up in those people on the bike
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
once
because they're
again,
not they don't need to run.
they're going all in, right?
Yeah,
And a few times I've been passed. I'm like, oh man, I can't let this guy pass me. And then
yeah,
finally you see
yeah.
his and it says really small aqua bike. I'm like, oh okay, like he's
Oh
doing 300 watts. Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it. Like he
Oh,
doesn't have to run 13 miles in this heat afterwards. Be smart. Like don't
yeah,
try and stick with these guys. Like
yeah.
let them go.
Well, but I love this, exploring different formats.
Yeah.
Doing a relay, doing an aqua bike, because I was talking with someone at our last event and they're like, maybe I need to do something other than triathlon right now. And there's so many different multi-sport options for people now, gravel, type of events, even where we are locally. I mean, even doing a lot of hiking, I think is such a great relief from that running, but yet still getting that run benefit.
No, I agree. I think it's absolutely like you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Um, and once again, everyone, path is, their paths are going to be different, and and I don't think there's any right or any wrong. And I think sometimes people feel like they're being judged by others sometimes, and
Hmm.
really, we talked about this before. No one really judges you except for yourself.
Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
You know,
Well.
your family's happy that
Yeah.
you're happy,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Well, and that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, our theme this year is for the club is enjoy the journey, and it's easy to say, but it's hard to do at times because there are times that it's hard. But at the end of the day, this should be fun, and you should be enjoying what you are doing. Yes, there are hard workouts that you have, but at the end,
yeah.
it really should be enjoyable. I actually had someone make a request that we do a podcast specifically on the benefits of friendship in training and having a really a training partner that is helpful for both of you. And I know we talked about group exercise in a couple of our episodes. How to avoid getting caught up into a group or how to be in the right group. But there's just such a great benefit that if you've got a social network around your training, that's going to help keeping you engaged because sometimes we each need a lift up.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And in the once again the community aspect of this, and um, yeah, and we're so lucky, John, you and I, that we have a good community here, and
Hmm.
we built good community within triathlon here,
Yeah.
and once again, just these other formats can help, and it's super interesting too because there's becoming, like you said, more and more formats. I mean, there's some I think there was one like up in Oregon. It was you skied at Mount Hood, rode your bike, then kayaked, then
Yeah,
ran,
yeah,
and I was like, oh man, that's so cool. Like
yeah,
that you can do all these different sports. And then there's a lot of these multi-sports that have kayak, mountain biking,
yeah,
running. Um, and I don't know, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for new adventures and new
yeah,
things to do. And if there was something like that here, I might consider, doing that. I don't know how to kayak, but
yeah,
I mean I could train and figure out how to do that. And even we used to have even Xterra racing in
yeah.
Las Vegas. And it's kind of too bad we don't have the
Hmm.
off-road racing, but I know there's lots of people in Las Vegas that have done Xterra racing where it's trail running and mountain biking and
Hmm.
swimming. And I mean we have that. Isn't like one of the races in the country up in Ogden, Utah? I think it is
Yeah, yeah.
for Xterra. I think it's like the
Hmm.
championship or something is and so it's not too far away.
Hmm.
And once again, it's just a slightly different format. And from my understanding, and I haven't done one, but it's a lot more low key. People don't take themselves quite as seriously for the most part, which is kind of fun as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. And we started with the relay concept. And I think that's again how you have three people, and all of a sudden one of them may say, "Well, now let's try this," and which may be an adventure type race or something like that. And I've seen teams go off in those different directions like that. So it's building that friendship and camaraderie with each other. And so there really is some good benefits doing that.
All right, so I just found one. It's this looks super fun. It's ski to sea. It's up in Washington. Start with a cross country ski, then go to downhill skiing, then a downhill run, then a road bike, then a canoe, then a cyclocross bike, then a sea kayak.
Oh, nice.
And you can do it by yourself, or looks like you do it with it's
Oh,
3 to 8 teammates.
okay.
But like that sounds fun. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah, it does. Yeah,
mixing it all up, get three people together and do that. And I know this is a triathlon podcast, but really it's more of a multi-sport
yeah, yeah, yeah,
podcast, anyways.
yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know, maybe I'm going to sign up for this one.
Yeah.
I
That sounds
I
great.
can too sure how good of a sea kayaker I am, but I think I could figure that out.
So is that, well, what's the length of time that that one will be done over?
Well, it was done May 22nd. Let me let me
And
see
I hear
results.
about a lot of these different, what's New Zealand have? They have the coast to coast, and
Coast to coast, yeah.
and the other big relay race that has been around is the Ragnar series.
Yeah.
And I mean, people, I saw them get into that, and it was just such a great team building experience for everyone. And,
Okay, so I found it. I found the information. This is going to be crazy. There was 293 teams in this event.
okay.
293 teams. The fastest was 6 hours,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and the average looks like it's around 8 or 9 hours.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good day. The other thing they used to have, and I did it twice, was the Mojave Death Race.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't have
right.
that
That's right.
anymore. Over COVID, it didn't survive, and that was just south of here. It started in Nipton,
Mm,
California, and that was I think we did it. I was fortunate enough to actually be on the winning team twice, and the one time I think we did it in like 20 hours. The one time was like 19 hours,
mhm.
and that was a combination of road biking, mountain biking, road running, and trail running,
Yeah.
and it was over 200 miles, putting it all together. And you had teams, different size teams. I think we had six on our team. So
Mhm.
one time I did 4 lengths. I did 2 runs and 2 bikes, or maybe I did 3 bikes. Um, but just once again, super fun, and really a good. There's a camaraderie
Yeah.
that you create with those people when you kind of you've been to war with them, sort of.
Yeah.
You're hanging out in. We had 2 vans, or yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we had 2 vans, and you're hanging out in 2 vans and trying to get the logistics right, and yeah. super fun events. And once again, I wish there was more of those. I know that logistically they're super hard to put together and to run, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's true. But I know with your Mojave death race, whatever it was,
Death race. Yeah,
I
death
know
race.
that a number of you actually put in a lot of thought in terms of how to do that. Not only the order of people, who's going to do which segment, but even the tire pressure, the type of tire, and the keeping cool
Yeah.
type of thing, all of that together, and that's fun. I mean, when you're starting to plan with a group, that's pretty neat.
When we were even doing things like looking at the profiles, right? And like, okay, because there was basically three of us that had, were kind of time trial bikers. And one guy was really quite, a big guy. And we're like, well, he shouldn't be riding uphill time trial section. I'm the lightest.
Yeah,
So I should ride the uphill time trial section. Then we have a
yeah,
downhill, he's like 190 pounds or something. He should be riding the downhill. Like just little things like that.
yeah,
And one of the runs was like 10 miles of trail uphill
yeah.
the entire way.
Hmm.
And I was the lightest runner. So like, okay, well, Ted, you're gonna do that section. I'm like, oh man, I wish I was heavy, so I could do the downhill. They kept putting me
How'd
on
that work out?
the uphills. But anyways, but it was still, it was fun to be like part of that and part of that
Yeah,
planning. And you're right about like in that one, a lot of the logistics were cooling. Like
yeah.
how do you stay cool in the middle of the desert? Because it really, I mean, the hottest we were, I think it was 112 degrees for one of my bike sessions.
Hold
Yep.
on 1 second.
Yep. All right, I'll keep talking since someone's at his door.
My brother
Okay.
just arrived, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
and it's funny, when my college students were doing the relays, and I've seen this with other relays as well, is they start to get energized in terms of, okay, well, you're going to do the swim, I'm going to do the bike. Okay, wait, now we need that runner, and they go down to practice, and they practice together and trying different segments, it's again, it's a neat way to get energized back in the sport, especially if anyone's struggling right now. Do a relay. Even our tri club event, if someone says, hey, we want to do a relay, we'll say, yes, you can do it.
Yeah, no, I think once again we should encourage people to do that. And then I was mentioning about with injury. Same thing with injury. You're
Mhm.
coming back from an injury, and maybe you got a shoulder injury, and you can't swim, and you still want to be involved, and maybe there's not a duathlon.
Yeah,
You don't want to you don't want to
yeah,
do that. You
yeah,
want to grab a swimmer, and that's another one that you just post it on a Facebook page. Hey, I
yeah,
want to do a
right,
relay. I need a swimmer,
right.
or I need a biker. I need a runner. You'll be amazed at how many people will just jump at that opportunity because they once again don't feel comfortable doing all three events.
No, that's good. Well, I think I'm gonna have to cut this one short. I'm
Yep,
running out
nope.
of steam at the same time.
We're not
So
theme, and your brother just got there. So hey, John, best of luck to you this
yeah.
week. Okay, and this weekend. Next weekend, I'm traveling, so we'll have to
Ah,
figure out another time. So we're heading up to Calgary next week,
yeah,
but we'll somehow plug through.
yeah, that's right. And we're lining up some other guests as
Yeah,
well. So
yeah.
we'll have some other featured guests coming up.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, John, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks. Talk soon.
Bye bye.